I had what? So okay, so I just said roll that beautiful bean footage, and
Oh, so good.
it reminded
Roll
me
that beautiful bean footage.
that I had a dream that involving a dog and running a company, and I don't remember what the rest of I don't remember what the whole dream was, but that sparked the memory that I had a dream about that.
You had a dream
Anywho.
about a dog and running a company. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
That's all I remember right now, Doc. How does that make you feel?
Renee, will you show us what you just opened before we started live broadcasting?
Oh, so I have the purple stuff. So I have the. Are we on the air? Are people seeing this?
Yeah, people are
going
seeing
into the podcast. Is this official?
Yeah.
This is the Grape Nike Plus band, which I'm going to call Purple Fire because it is so. It's so juicy. I just want to spread it on a peanut butter sandwich and go to town.
I like the back how it's got that kind of sort of swoopy look to, because I only knew about the front where you could just see the lighter grape color shining through, but I didn't realize the back.
And then here's a nylon loop that is sort of shimmery. I think Georgia's going to steal this because it's blue and purple and it kind of shammers. I think it's one of the Nike sport loops. But they're both, ooh, Micah Sargent, look at you.
No, this isn't the new one. I was just saying, like, I love the sport loop so much.
They're like sweatpants for your wrist. It's amazing.
That's a great descriptor.
Yep, that's perfect. I quite like that little descriptor there. So that's part of this new, season? Is that what they call them, of colors?
Yeah, it's like every equinox gets a new line. It's like every March and every September.
Oh, equinox.
Exunotl. Is there I don't know how to exunotl releases.
Exequatl.
Oh yeah. What's that animal?
Quetzalcoatl. Yeah.
All right.
By the way, throughout this entire podcast, Micah, Lori, and I are going to be looking at Twitter to make sure Air Power is not announced while we're talking.
I know.
Yeah. Well, what are your well, okay, we're going to get into that because I do want to I just have to make sure that I get this little tweet out here. They're like sweatpants for your wrist. Renee Ritchie on the Apple Watch Sport Loop. And
if I was Apple, I would wait till April 1st for Air Power. I'm just putting
so there. Hold on. That's what we're going to talk about when the show starts. Because I was going to Okay, so here we go.
Do it.
It is March 29th, 2019. I'm Micah Sargent, and right now we are going to talk about that Showtime event, AirPods 2, the future of Air Power, if that does ever happen, and maybe a little bit more if we have some time, because this is the iMore Show. Bum, 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 bum. Joining us this week, potentially from Dreamland, all the way up in Canada, it is Renee Ritchie. How you doing, Renee?
Good morning. Good morning. A billion phones in your pockets, y'all. Good morning.
I love it.
Was that all the memes? Was that all the memes? I tried to hit all the memes for you, Micah.
You hit most of the memes. I think the only one you forgot was something about Steve Carell.
I did drop my titanium Apple Card on the floor and left a huge dent.
I like that. We are also joined this week by the effervescent Lori Gill. Hello, Lori.
Effervescent makes me think of Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah, Alka-Seltzer is also effervescent, but
so I make people feel good in their tummies. I like that.
You do. Right. Oh, we feel good in our tummies when Lori's here. You know what else makes us feel good in our tummies? New Apple stuff.
Yes.
Even when it's bits and not atoms?
Well, okay.
Actually, that's not true, though. They just did it in separate things. Like Apple could have said, here's new iPad mini, here's new iPad Air, here's new AirPods, here's new Mac, and here's new services. They just spread it out. So we did get all the
last week's show, Lori.
No, it's still awesome and super cool. And I have the new iPad mini.
Yes, is that a cupcake on it?
You've got a little holy deal on it.
It's my pop socket. So we were talking with Georgia last week about like what's a good thing to do so that you can kind of like what's a good case. So I just grabbed my pop socket and put it on the back of it, and it works.
Cool yourself off in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, the vapors. I've come down with the vapors.
I've got the Air 2. Mine's not gold like Lori though. Mine's very serious and space gray and businessy.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous though. Show us the front.
But it's airy.
It's gorgeous.
It's airy.
Now, what does one do? Like that device, obviously, I think Renee is not for you because you've got your Pro with your pencil
Yes.
and that jazz. Is where does the iPad go? Who does, you know what I mean? Like what?
So I figured this
iPad
out.
for?
I've dialed this in because there were a bunch of people, like when Apple made these announcements, like the typical media types who I'm not in my best minds. I don't want to be insulting to them, but they're all like, oh my God, it's so complicated now. There's more than one iPad. Steve only had one iPad. Why do we need more? And I just want to I sent out this emoji message that just explained it to them. Little student emoji is the 9.7-inch iPad because it's super low cost. It gets you in the door. You can get an Apple Pencil if you want to, but basically $300 and 29 change, you know, you've got a pretty full iPad experience. That aside, you walk in, you get the new iPad Air. That's your baseline. That's your everyday. It's got everything you want on an iPad, Apple Pencil support. It's got the smart keyboard support. It's the same price as the original iPad, $499 to start. It's just the everyday iPad for everybody. Now, if you want that, but you want it smaller, you can just get the mini like Lori has. It's almost exactly the same except for the smart keyboard support. If you really can't afford that, but you still want an iPad, the student edition is for you. It's perfect. If you like the Air, but you're just all about that Pro, like you want the new design, you want that USB-C, you want the convenience of the Pencil 2, you know, you just want all the bells and whistles. You want the fastest processor. You want a really good 4K camera. You want everything. Then you go up to Pro. So it ends up being very similar to the Mac. The Air is for everybody. And then you can get the high portability one if you want. You can get the high performance one if you want. And you can get the previous year's budget one if that really suits your needs.
It really, to me, it lines up perfectly with what Apple is doing across the board. You have the least expensive model, so sort of the entry level, or for the people who just can't afford more. You have the mid-grade one, which is the mid-range one, which is for everyone. And then you have the Pro model. They do that with the iPhone and they do that with the MacBook. So to me, it's exactly the same kind of thing. Is like there's three three different tiers. Here's your options. It works perfectly. And the iPad mini it's not part of that tier. The iPad mini is different. In my opinion, the iPad mini is for everybody who has all of them, any of them, if you want a smaller version. So if you can afford a second iPad, the mini is totally for you because it's portable. It's what you use at home but don't want to take with you. You can drop it in your bag and you're good to go. So I think there's the three tiers, and then there's the mini for people who want something portable. I think it's kind of lines up perfect.
And the Maxi for the one who want just a giant canvas.
Yeah.
Those are like the two outliers.
That fits in the Pro though. That's the Pro section. So it's like the cheap or inexpensive, the for everyone, the for the pros, and then a tiny one if you want a portable one.
The cute little tiny one.
Yeah.
The mini is for everyone. It's just for smaller people.
Or people who want something smaller.
Yeah.
I do like that I can hold it in my hand. Like
my godkids love it.
That's really nice.
They relate to it the best of any iPad because it just feels like it's their size.
Yeah. It's really nice. It's not, I'm not gonna watch movies on it because I have a larger iPad to watch movies on. But I love reading the magazines from News Plus on it, which we're about to talk about.
Yeah,
and
that actually sounds really
awesome
nice.
On it too.
Yeah. It's Henry and Mizzy size. So I guess if you want an iPad for your dog, then the iPad mini.
My little godson, it was so sad. He was using my iPad mini with the pencil, and then he has an iPad mini too, and he stole his father's pencil and tried to use it. And he was like, "Ah."
Now, and the Logitech Crayon will work with
Yes.
with the mini as well. So I keep wanting to grab one of those, but I don't have a device. Wait, yeah, I do. Never mind.
Yeah.
Take it back. I do. I have a device that supports it. So let us go ahead and talk about this. Yeah, the software. Now, should we hold on? I've got an idea here.
Could you just turn out your lights for a second,
Renee,
Mike, and then put them back on?
You spoiled it.
Oh, damn. I'm
That's
so terrible
okay.
today.
Here we go. Is it gonna work? It's not working. It's not working. There we go.
Okay.
And okay, now we're going to talk about the Showtime event.
Micah, tell us about your new show.
Well, okay, so I'm doing a new show. It's where I go around the country to all of the bars, restaurants, and coffee shops that allow dogs inside, and I rate and review them, and I work to improve them if they need any help, because I really want them to succeed.
So
see, I
does
thought
that
you were
already
gonna-
exist as a show? Because it should, if it doesn't.
It should.
I thought he was going to say that he shows up at random offices and reenacts a random office episode until they call security. And the longer he can go before they call security, the better their chances of winning.
That was just that was a bet that I lost one time and had to do, so not quite show material. All right, so the Showtime event happened. It took place. We got to watch all of the new fun stuff that Apple was announcing. It was services to the point that that Tim actually did that thing that people who write speeches kind of laugh about, where you start a speech out by using the dictionary definition of a word.
I know. I was like, I can't, like, we all got taught don't start a speech or an article or with a dictionary definition. And I was like, oh,
Webster's defines services as, but it was basically to lay out like what Apple services are and what they were looking to provide to the customer.
Oh God, now I want him to start WWDC with an Emojipedia entry. Emojipedia describes the laughing, crying face
as. And there's going to be lots of laughing and crying today because we're all very happy.
Tim was trolling us for that. I think he was just like, I'm going to do this because people are going to say mean things about me no matter what. So I'm going to start off with this.
Webster's defines wedding as the molding of hot metals with a torch. So let's talk about News Plus, baby. Let's talk about you and me. News Plus is Apple's new news service that gets you access to magazines and some newspapers. And is that
the Toronto Star, Micah?
The Toronto Star.
Sorry, I'm reading Cosmo. I'm not paying attention.
Canada is that's exciting. Canada, you're gonna be getting News Plus magazines.
Yeah, because Texture was Condé Nast and a bunch of US magazines plus Rogers in Canada co-enterprise. It was available in both those countries, and Apple just kept the service in both those countries to start.
Which is really nice.
Sorry,
right?
UK and Australia, we get to be first ones.
Finally,
it's about time. So what I love about the News Plus service is that you get to, with Apple Music, now with News Plus, you get to try it out for free for honestly quite a long time. It's a whole month of free service. And
now that February's behind us, it's actually
a full month. And so I have been playing around with
Did you
Apple
use Texture
News
before,
Plus.
Micah?
I did not. I didn't know that it existed.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was a thing until Apple purchased it. And then I was like, that's a really good idea.
My mom has been using it for a while because like slowly but surely all the magazines she bought were being like, there were just fewer newsstands, fewer stores. It was harder for her to get to them. And she couldn't subscribe to all the ones she wanted because she didn't necessarily want every issue of them. So we moved her over to Texture, I think for Christmas last year. We gave it to her as a gift, a year's worth. And she's really been enjoying it because she just opens her magazine, she reads it. And now as of May 28th, they're not going to automatically move you over. You have to cancel, like you can subscribe in the news app. And the content is similar. Apparently it's not exactly the same content. And the US and Canada have a lot of the same stuff, but not exactly all the same stuff. But more or less you get 300 magazines. And I think there's like 30 or 60 Canadian periodicals that you can read. And like, Lori, I just jumped into Entertainment Weekly immediately. And I'm like, where's my Endgame preview? I don't want to see, but I want to see. Where's my Avengers Endgame preview?
So everybody has to say what their first magazine they jumped into is, because I think like I am a huge fan of magazines. I have a stack right now of, like, I'm not joking. My stack of magazines is like from the floor to here.
Is it Lori tall?
It's Fangoria. I know it's Fangoria.
It's not. It's a lot of art magazines actually.
Heavy metal.
And so I'm so into magazines, and the one magazine that I ended up not subscribing to, I gave up on the subscription, but I loved so much was the New Yorker. So
yeah.
I immediately dove into the New Yorker and was just like, yes. And I don't have to feel bad if I can't get through the whole thing in a week, because the New Yorker has so much stuff in it and it's weekly. You just can't read it all and you feel bad. And then you like paying for the subscription and you can't read every single article. And this way I can read as much as I want and not have to like, I got to get through it before the next week. So it's
Mike
so
is holding
awesome.
up Gentleman's Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Favorite.
So GQ was the one that because
cover.
like I said, I used to have a subscription to GQ and then I canceled it when I realized I wasn't reading it that much. But you better believe I got that Beyonce issue before I canceled. And what's kind of sad is that the frame rate of my iPhone is much higher than the frame rate of the webcam, so you can't quite tell. But there's a fun. The cover has a
I can see it.
fun. Yeah, but it's very
jumping,
jerky.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's not jerky in IRL.
Maybe he doesn't like the way we look. He's just looking at us going, nope.
Yeah, he's like,
nope.
Really, we need to work on that. It's what is that called? That effect, parallax. It's got a nice parallax effect. I will be honest with you, I'm a little weirded out by the way, because there are two types of magazine formats. One is it's in Apple News format, which lets them do a lot of fun stuff, where you can have like the parallax effect. You can have images and video that move and sort of are more interactive, and that's fun. And then the other one is just scanned in PDFs, essentially. Well, not necessarily scanned because they're created digitally, but PDFs that you have access to. The thing that kind of weirds me out is the process by which you navigate through the magazine. As you're scrolling through, then there's this little thing that pops up in the bottom and it says open. And so I'm already in the magazine. The magazine is open. But when I tap on that open button, then it kicks me back to the front, like it pops up the front page of the magazine.
The interface is weird and goofy and not intuitive for me yet.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. It's not intuitive yet.
It's like a toddler.
It's new and fresh, and I understand that, and I imagine it's going to get a lot better, which I'm excited about. But right now, it is a little weird, and that's, I do like the idea. So the thing that happens whenever you tap open, it lets you then navigate through the rest of the magazine, so you can kind of jump to something, but it's not intuitive necessarily. So I would almost just want my little hamburger button at the top to navigate through and get to what I wanted. But like I said, in terms of like the magazines that have the Apple News format, that is very handy and fun because you can do animation.
Scare you, but Jigglypuff is looking at you. I just noticed that. Apparently Jigglypuff is giving you the eye as you look at the news articles.
Jigglypuff is my favorite Pokemon, and I know that Jigglypuff would never write on my face whenever I fall asleep because of how much I love Jigglypuff. But yeah, Jigglypuff is giving everyone. Jigglypuff is my little protector whenever I'm on podcasts, so other people know they better be careful.
It's only because Igglybuff wasn't around; otherwise, he'd be doing it.
Wiggly tough. And then two, the good thing about the Apple News format is that it supports dynamic text, and so you can change the text size. It makes it much more accessible and easy to be used for others. So I overall am bullish about this. I think that it's exciting. But yeah, I've noticed the complaints that I've seen and things like that, or the curiousness that I've seen, is that it is a little hard to navigate and sort of figure out like what magazines are the ones that I've downloaded. Where do those go? But it's in its infancy, and I think there's plenty of time. But I do want to note too, shout out to Federico Vitici over on Mac Stories.
Yeah,
he put together a list of all of the Apple News magazines, Apple News Plus magazines, and then the ones that support the Apple News format and the ones that don't. So you can see
how many espresso had to die to get that list
made.
Probably a lot.
One per magazine.
I think there's a couple of things about News Plus that they're my guess as to what's going on, is that there probably wasn't a whole lot of time to integrate everything into the Apple News format. So this is kind of their first iteration, and it will get better, like the user interface issues that we're having. Like, for example, do you know how to favorite a magazine? It took me forever to finally figure it out.
From the share sheet, right?
No, you have to actually, when you open up a magazine, right? So then there's your magazine and you're like, I want to make sure that I always get the new issue of Make up in my favorite section. You like, how do you do it? You actually have to tap the name of the magazine, and then it takes you to that magazine's homepage. And then from there you can favorite that magazine.
Yeah,
So
see, that's
it's
tough.
little things. And the thing is that I know that Apple does, they think of this kind of thing. So my guess is that they wanted to get this out so that we could start experiencing it, and that they would fix those little things later. So we'll probably see a lot of user design updates in the next few months, even, to get kind of where they think it should be, what we're used to. And also, I think the reason why some magazines are in PDF form and some magazines are in news form, it's probably cost prohibitive for some of these companies to be able to transfer over. So,
for sure.
So they're just there's no, you shouldn't be excluded from being a part of the News Plus programming if just because you can't afford to get, like, hire the people to recode the magazine to fit that format. So some of them, they might just stay as PDFs forever and ever and ever, because it might just be too hard for them to transfer over. So I don't know. I like it. I think it's really fun. I absolutely love being able to look at these magazines all the time and flip through pages and never feel guilty about not being able to get through everything. And also not feel guilty about the paper waste, which I do still buy magazines. I do feel bad, which is why I donate them to my local library, because I don't want to just throw that in the garbage, because it's so much paper waste when you're done with your magazine. So
I didn't realize that you could do that.
Yeah. They'll take your periodicals and, they'll put them on the shelf for other people to look at. And libraries keep magazines back for really long periods of time. So it's always a bonus to have that stuff.
Yeah, so that was because in Texture, one of the nicest features is you could just tap right through to all the back issues. And I haven't found that on News as easily yet.
Well, have you tried tapping into the magazine? Because like I'm on the Make one right now. Well, I don't know. Mine goes all the way back to, on the Make magazine, it goes all the way back to March of 2018.
Play around a bit.
So it might be just which magazine. Maybe some of them don't go back far enough.
Maybe.
Oh, interesting. Oprah magazine's on here in the featured section.
Wired goes all the way back to March. So it looks like it goes back a year, because so far the ones I've seen go back to March of 2018.
So my question now is, was this what we were expecting whenever Apple announced, or whenever we sort of had heard the rumors about News Plus? Like, was this sort of what you had in mind on what was going to end up being announced? Because the one thing for me that was a little confusing, and still is, frankly, is where are these newspapers that I have access to, and how does that work? Is it just that in the main news section now I get the full article? What, that part is confusing to me, because it's only
confusing to everyone. Like, some people are like, I can't find the Wall Street Journal, they're not in there. And other people are like, I'm at the Wall Street Journal page, I have the entire newspaper. And I'm like, I see articles, I don't see nothing, but I don't see the whole thing either. What is going on here?
Okay, so I'm glad that I'm not the only one, because I was feeling, every time my family member or somebody that I'm helping with tech says this, I always get onto them about saying this. But as a person who, does tech stuff, I was feeling a little stupid, honestly. I'm like, why can't I find this? But it makes me feel good that, Renee, you were also struggling to find it as well. I
just searched for it, and then I went to the Wall Street Journal channel. And I think if I heart that, then it stays in my list and I can go back to it. And then it gives me a pretty full feed of their articles.
Same way that you would tap to, like, the magazines. You go find an article with the Wall Street Journal, then tap into the Wall Street Journal's page, then heart.
I just searched because I couldn't find an article.
Yeah. And then you do have access. So like I am now looking at the full Wall Street Journal news page right here.
Hey, mine is the same in Canada. That's amazing.
So it's not just like scrolling through a magazine. It gives you
right.
the newspapers are done differently still.
Yeah.
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 So here's what it says on Apple's newsroom page. In addition, Apple News Plus includes the Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, and Toronto Star, Canada's largest daily newspaper. Apple News Plus also provides access to premium online publications such as The Skim, The Highlight by Vox, New York Magazine's Sites, Vulture, The Cut, and Grub Street, and Extra Crunch from Verizon Media's Tech Crunch. Oh, that's new. TechCrunch just announced the Crunch not too long, or Extra Crunch not too long ago. So we have
So we'll
access
see
to
all
that.
of Panzer's shoes, like every day, a new pair of
Right.
shoes.
So how do I now I'm curious. I want to find that. Because like there's no way for me to search. Where do I search for that?
Up at the on
You
your iPhone.
go to the search bar. Yeah.
There's I guess that's another thing to
Where's the search
remember
bar?
is that on
So you
iPhone,
go to following. At the top of following, there's a search bar.
Oh, following. Okay.
It's totally intuitive, Micah.
Extra Crunch is what I'm looking for.
Is it going to give you? I got extra crispy. Hold on.
Yeah, I got TechCrunch and Extra Crispy, but
Maybe
I don't.
Extra Crunch is.
Oh, okay. So if you tap on TechCrunch, the second thing in the TechCrunch bar is Extra Crunch. And so I guess it just knows that I have an Apple News Plus subscription. What I need to do is have my partner try to go to. I could do that.
Not
live
allowed experimenting on your partner, Micah.
Right. I'm curious. So you keep talking about that. I'm gonna do a little test here.
Yeah. So there's I do want to just take a moment.
Oh, but it's not giving me it's giving me a subscription wall for Extra Crunch. Even
Oh,
though
is
I'm
it?
subscribed.
I didn't have that. Let me just point out too, you do have to search for things like the Wall Street Journal at first, but once you heart them or favorite them, they appear in your favorites channel. You don't have to search for them anymore. If you want to just read the Wall Street Journal, you can just tap into the Wall Street Journal page, just like you can with any other news organization that was there before News Plus existed. So just to kind of like give everybody a little bit of a thing about that, it's not like you're never going to get to see the articles from the Wall Street Journal unless they appear in your standard news feed. You can go to their direct page.
But iMore is not showing up in Canada.
Aha. Okay, so
channel's not available in Canada.
I just asked Luke to do a search for me, and so here's his phone. When I tap on Extra Crunch, it shows no stories. But on mine, with a subscription, it has all of the stories loaded.
Yeah.
So it's a little. Thank you, Luke. So it's a little odd because the problem with that is it didn't prompt him about an Apple News Plus subscription, and he may not be updated to the latest version of iOS, and so that's why it's not showing up. Which I know we can all shame him for that, but because of that, that might be why it's not prompting. But that's a little unclean if you don't know. You see this and you try to tap on it, and then you can't get access to it. It should be popping up and saying, "Hey, would you like to have a subscription to this? Here's how you do so." But
Renee, you said you can't access Extra Crunch at all from
no, it accesses it, but it's full of stuff that says subscribe, even though it shouldn't be there. And then if I hit subscribe, it takes me to the web and have the paywall. But if I don't hit that,
yours looks like this at first. So if I tap on an article, was that whenever it showed subscribe?
Yeah. Well, I just tapped on a transcript, and it kept saying to see the full transcript, subscribe, but it kept showing me the full transcript.
Okay, so mine is working. Oh no, wait, there it is. Unlock the full benefits. No, that's
you already unlocked, right?
Yeah. So it's showing me the full article. It was just saying if you want to have access to, like, I don't know, not the other stuff on top of the article. Yeah, the shoes, exactly. If you want a monthly subscription box to shoes. Yeah, see, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I've got the full article here for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, so you do have that, Renee?
Yeah, but I keep having these breakouts for subscription, and I thought it was for Extra Crunch, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to try another one. I know that this is just great radio, but we're curious. We're trying it live. We're doing it live. I'm going to the Skim now. And I don't know if that's what's new in the Skim.
Okay, so this time that thing's not there. I went back to the exact same article, and now there's no please subscribe box.
Oh, so maybe it loaded.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Vox's is the highlight.
Journalism is hard, friends.
Yeah, and here's what's interesting is that Vox has something called the highlight, but unlike TechCrunch, when I tapped on Vox, there was no thing in the toolbar that let me find the highlight. This is
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I will say that in my opinion, the magazine part is pretty clean, pretty cool, pretty awesome. But when it comes to the content for, the free content that you get for the Wall Street Journal, etc., it's a little confusing still.
Yeah, it is, and definitely needs some kind of user interface work to make it a little more intuitive and a little easier to use. Also, I like just to generally talk about, yeah, I think you had originally asked the question, is this what we expected? And kind of yes in the magazine part and kind of no in the news part. I was really hoping there'd be a lot more newspapers that signed up to be a part of this. And I think there's two in the US. I think it's LA Times and Wall Street Journal are the two like normally paywalled
Yes.
sites. So I hope there's more. I would love to be able to dip into a couple more of those big wigs. And I understand reasons why these major newspaper companies wouldn't want to jump on board. So it's no slide on anybody, but I would love to see more. So hopefully it'll be so popular that these newspaper companies will see the benefit of these kind of like half subscriptions, if you will, to maybe get people interested in that in their newspaper that maybe wouldn't have subscribed previously. So, hopefully we'll see.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that for sure. Because, the New York Times, I kind of figured were not going to be included. But there are lots of newspapers out there, and especially, like I said, local ones. Would be nice to be able to support those through this service as we kind of continue to figure out how media companies make money. If this kicks off, I wonder how many people are going to stay past the free first month trial. And perhaps, it might be a while before people even know about the 1 month trial that is available. But it's exciting, and all those magazines that are available are a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I agree that it's also cool to not have to feel guilty about not getting through the whole magazine.
Yeah,
because that kind of stinks.
it's so nice. Like sometimes you only want to read 6 articles, but you bought the magazine and you feel like you have to read every single thing.
Yeah. Or give it to a dentist to sit in the wait room. All right, let's go ahead, I think, and move on to talk about TV Plus. But before we do, I want to quickly take a second to tell you about Thrifter. So Thrifter is an awesome way to save money on all sorts of stuff. It's not just tech; it's also home goods and new games that are launching and all sorts of stuff. It's all about shopping based on value instead of hype. So that means you're going to get real good deals and none of those sort of fake deals that draw you in and don't actually save you any money. If you head to thrifter.com and sign up for the newsletter, you'll get those deals sent directly to your inbox. It is the curated deals from the site. But if you also just go to thrifter.com itself, you're going to see loads of awesome deals available there to help you save money on all sorts of good and fun and necessary and sometimes unnecessary stuff. But it's all there and it's all great. Lori Gill, would you mind telling us about a deal that's got you excited on Thrifter?
Today, I'm going to tell you about a bunch of deals that Thrifter has tracked down and published on their main page. That it's kind of blowing my mind at how many things are on sale. Logitech. There's keyboards and mice and headphones. Like tons of Logitech stuff is on sale right now. So I mean, if you're like me and you love the Logitech keyboards, it looks like they're having just like a fire sale with all their stuff. There's just tons of things that are discounted price. Some of it up to 45%, I think, there's one section that's mice, keyboard, and webcam, 45% off today. That's a pretty good deal.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Another deal that has me excited. Amazon Basics has permanent markers, and you can get 12 permanent markers for just $2, which is a great deal on permanent markers. I know that's kind of silly, but genuinely, you know, it's nice to have some permanent markers around. So that is Thrifter. You can also follow Thrifter over on Twitter at Thrifter Daily. If you're in the UK, you can follow at Thrifter UK. If you're in Canada, you can follow at Thrifter CA to get all those great deals. So thank you so much to Thrifter for sponsoring this week's episode of the iMore Show. Let's talk about TV Plus.
Yeah. Do we have to? I was disappointed, I've got to say.
Apple TV Plus, the new service from Apple TV. What is Apple TV Plus? Is it a network? Is it a package? What's going on with Apple TV Plus? Renee, do you have some sort of descriptor for it? Some clever descriptor?
I'm gonna default to Lori because she has access to all the TV that we in Canada only dream about, so she knows things about like Amazon subscriptions and stuff. But I will just say that it's more in line. Like Apple never seemed. Let me just go back for a second. With like Netflix, they originally started off licensing a bunch of content like Starz. So there was just tons of stuff to watch. And Amazon has been similar. You know, they have a ton of CBS programs and all this other stuff, huge catalogs. And then they added original content on top of that. So you could watch like Stranger Things or you know, what's it called? American Gods. And then go watch Knight Rider or whatever you wanted to watch after that. Apple is only doing original content. It doesn't have a content catalog, didn't license a content catalog, didn't buy Disney, didn't buy Netflix, any of that. So it's like if those things existed but only had original content and only like a few shows a year. So there's really not much else in there. So it sounds like what they're doing is they're going to release these original shows and then have you sign up for skinny cable bundles inside the app. And I think some of the shows are super interesting because Apple's not spending as much as Amazon or Netflix. They're spending like billions of dollars. Apple's only spending single-digit billions, but they're really going for A-list talent. Like there's Jason Momoa and Jennifer Aniston and Steven Spielberg, like top-notch talent making top-notch shows. And that sort of reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote, which is like, you got to be Babe Ruth. If there's only one ball, you got to knock it out the park every time. But this is not making iPhones. This is TV. And I don't know if it works that way. So,
yeah. So, Renee, you actually were supposed to be letting me talk about it and then ended up basically explaining everything. But what I'll start off with is there's multiple parts to what Apple announced regarding TV and the TV app. Yeah. So the TV app itself, the big deal that's coming to this is there's going to be a bit of a design change. It'll look a little bit different when you get in there. And it's going to be available on a bunch of different devices, including Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So the TV app, the thing that only we can watch on our iOS devices or Apple TV, is now going to be available for people who don't have an iOS device or Apple TV. So this is great. It's spreading it out. So that's step one. Step two is the channels, which is what Renee was talking about, the mini bite-sized version of cable subscriptions. So with channels, you'll be able to go into the TV app, either on your iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, or Roku, or Amazon Fire TV. And in the TV app, you'll be able to subscribe to cable channels like HBO Go, Showtime, things like that. We don't know exactly what the list is, but we know that that's one of the things. So that's two. That's these channels. So instead of there being like, for $30 a month, you can watch all basic cable channels plus over-the-air channels plus our 5 new exclusive TV shows. It's not that. So it's a way to package all of your or a lot of your subscriptions into one place. So for me right now, Apple TV is my one place. I can have HBO Go, I can have Showtime, I can have Amazon Prime, I can have Netflix, Hulu, but they're all in these separate little boxes that I click into. With the TV app, recommendations and your history and what's up next, it's all going to be in the TV app for those things that you've subscribed to through the TV app. They're all just going to be there for you to go through, which is what the TV app is doing now, but it'll have more direct subscription process, a more direct subscription process through the TV app directly. So that's 2. And then 3 is Apple Apple's TV Plus, which is their premium subscription service that will have their exclusive TV shows, which is what Renee was talking about. And I think they showed us, was it 5 or 6 TV shows? But there's
they
actually
were all lumped together. Yeah, but there was a bunch. Like when you start reading the names going by real fast, there was like a ton of them in
there's
there.
actually a lot. Yeah. So the things that they sort of, the celebrities that came on stage and presented to us, that's not everything. There's more. I don't know how many, maybe a dozen, maybe even more than a dozen.
I think they said 5 are finished, right? Like 5 are finished or about finished.
And I think that's what it was, is the presenters that came on stage were, those shows are in the can. They're ready for us to watch in the fall when it comes out. And the rest maybe just aren't quite ready to be presented to us yet as available. So so that's 3. It's TV Plus. So if in the way it was announced, it feels so disjointed. I think once it's all live and it's all available to us, things are gonna make more sense and we'll understand how this all works better. But it feels very separate. So the update, which will include your ability to access channels in the TV app, comes out in May, and then the release through other services like Roku and Amazon Fire TV comes out in the fall. No specific number. It might have been this summer, but I think it was the fall. And then Apple's TV Plus TV shows comes out this fall. So those are how it's all laid out for everybody, in case that was confusing, because it was confusing to me.
So yeah, I agree. Thank you for laying all that out. Somehow I missed the part, like I knew that it was coming to smart TVs and stuff. I don't know how, but I missed the part where the Apple TV app was coming to Roku and
yeah, they kind of threw that out there at the end, like, oh, by the way.
That's wild to me. Like that's a good thing, but that's wild to me. Wow.
And some people, I know we're not talking about it yet, but some people were really interested / angry that Apple TV Plus is going everywhere, but Apple Arcade isn't. And I just want to remind all our friends out there that streaming video and audio cross-platform is fairly trivial. It's not it's not trivial, but you just, like, everybody can do that. But taking games that are written for Apple's frameworks like Metal and moving them cross-platform, tad bit more work.
Yeah, that's to me that seems like a lot to ask, frankly. But
and you're not asking Apple to do that in that case too. You're asking these game developers to do that, and that, like, these are all indie game developers. They can't afford to code for a bunch of different things right out of the gate.
Apple should make a terrible emulator that just lets me emulate terribly on my smartwatch of choice.
Yeah, I want to play this game on the Pebble. That has an e-ink screen, right? Yes, I want to play it on the Pebble.
Shut up, you fanboy.
So with Apple TV Plus, I'm excited about some of the shows that they're announced. Obviously, when Steve Carell took the stage, I quite literally kind of squealed.
You thought it was Office Cupertino, didn't you?
I thought, oh my gosh, Steve Carell is in this. I don't care what's
working
happening.
At Apple Park.
I'm excited.
So great.
So I can't wait to see that newsroom show. Quite literally because of Steve Carell. That looks like it should be interesting and fun. The other, projects that were announced were interesting. I'm probably not going to watch Oprah's book club, but the idea, I think, is a really, really cool one. So if you missed it or you didn't get to see that part or what have you, Oprah is doing this thing where she will be talking with the authors of certain books, and folks can watch, tune in and be part of essentially the book club and hear about these books. Awesome.
Because this to me shows the reach of Apple, and it's kind of subtle, but they're going to have authors at Apple retail, book and mortar retail stores where people can go and see them. And that will be broadcast to all those billion phones and pockets, y'all. There's very few companies that have the reach from brick and mortar through broadcast to devices in everybody's pockets. And I think when Apple does that, there was also another, we'll get to Apple Card in a minute too, but it goes right into iMessage for Business for support. And not many companies have that many services, especially real world services, already set up that they can start putting them together into these interesting ways. Like, just a quick anecdote. I saw my mom yesterday, and she's like, oh, my friend, who must be in her 70s, bought a new Samsung phone, and she has absolutely no idea how to use it. kind of like, my mom went to the Apple store. Like, she got her iPhone, she went to the Apple store, she took their courses. She's like, I can calendar like a pro now. And she's like, can she go to something like that? And I'm like, well, she can take her phone back and go to the Apple store and buy one. I'll teach her how to use it. But you sort of forget that there's just not these huge support structures for everybody out there. And Apple has really laid that path bare.
Yeah,
definitely. I think I was looking up how to use something, and it wasn't an Apple product. So if you're looking up anything on how to use an Apple product, you're almost always the top hit, or at least close to the top hit, is almost always Apple support. Either their actual document support, or it's a thread in the communities page, the forums page. The thing I was looking for, I couldn't find it all. I had to sort of reword and rejigger, and there was a couple of websites that were trying to explain it, a couple of videos that were trying to explain it, and that I kind of realized, wow, we are really lucky that we have the kind of support online that we do through Apple products, just not even directly from Apple, but from the community that talks about things. Like, the weirdest thing can happen. Somebody, gets a moving black pixel across their screen on their iMac, and they type, I don't know what's happening. And somebody else will go, oh, try this, X, Y, and Z. And then, that fixed it. It's pretty amazing. We're pretty lucky that we have that level of support for Apple products.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, the Oprah thing is exciting. The different shows are exciting. They clearly, like you said, they're kind of what we sort of thought about them working to have the best talent available, or among the best talent available to create these shows. But it's still a ways out. It's coming this fall, and that was the ongoing complaint that I saw, was kind of, they're announcing it now, but it won't be available until later.
I did ask about this, or maybe Apple just came out and mentioned it, but they said that, when Apple works on like a new iPhone or something, they're very good at keeping that secret. Like, stuff does leak out, but when something is internal to Apple, like ResearchKit or CareKit, all that stuff doesn't leak. When you start working with Hollywood and developer and other partners, it leaks all over the place. And Apple, because they were having this event, figured, even though stuff wasn't coming immediately, more and more information was going to come out about it, and it wouldn't have any context, and it'd be subject to all these rumors and guesswork. And Apple felt like if they just got in front of it and said, this is what we're doing, it's not here yet, this is what we're working on and why, at least when more rumors came out, people would have some context for them.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Makes a lot of sense. So with that being said, what about Apple Arcade?
I just want to hear Tron music as we talk about it. Down, 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 down. I think it's interesting compared to so Google announced their service about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's very different. It's AAA titles, AAA developers. We don't know who any of them are yet, but supposedly they're all lined up, and it's going to stream to every device with acceptable latency and a special controller. And it's a very Google, like when the cloud is your hammer, everything is your streaming nail. And Apple is really not that. So this is a very Apple take on it, where everything is downloaded. There'll be versions of the game optimized for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple TV. They will be some of them will be famous developers, including indie developers like We2, who made, I'm blanking on the name now. That really famous, beautiful indie game from a while ago, Heights something. Anyway, really good developers. Like Sega's going to be making Sonic Racer, and there'll be a whole bunch, Lego Brawler, a whole bunch of cool stuff. But they're exclusive titles coming only to this service that Apple's working on with the developers. And that was the big thing for me, because you could tell that no big in-app purchase developer was going to go for this, because they're making billions on the app stores. So like no Candy Crush, no Clash of Clans, no Fortnite. They're not going to have anything to do with this because they want to keep making that money. And also, like, if it was just developers could opt into this and they're being paid out based on attention, they would start trying to optimize and program and gamify attention, which results in the Facebook newsfeed or the YouTube recommended bar, which nobody wants. So this is not like you can't opt into this. Apple is handpicking developers to work with and making the games that are exclusive for this platform to be like these sort of one. That was the whole thing for the entire event for me, was this thread of Apple wants to give storytellers who can't find a business model but are desperate to tell like these very personal, very handcrafted stories, platforms to do that, whether the story is television, whether the story is games, whether the story is in journalism, any of those things. They want to give them a platform where they don't have to worry about microtransactions or necessarily their own subscriptions or in-app purchases, but can just make them. And some of those games looked absolutely gorgeous in the demo reel.
Oh, they sure did, man. Just based on what they showed in the demo reel, and if you go to Apple's website where they have the Apple Arcade page, I'm on board immediately just with the gorgeous way that looks.
They're gorgeous, darling. Gorgeous.
They're gorgeous. I hope it's not going to be too expensive, because I do want to keep Apple News Plus. But I really do want Apple Arcade. So like, it's starting to like crawl into like out of my price range, but like $5.99, which seems super low. And I certainly don't want to undercut the game developers, because that's been the problem all along. But $5.99 plus the $9.99 for Apple for News Plus, I could do if they bundle it, which I'm still hoping that once it's all out that they'll offer it a bundle. I will almost definitely participate in the bundle. So, Renee, the game that you were talking about was Monument Valley by Us,
yes.
too, by the way.
Oh,
just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Yeah. So I'm worried about the price, but I did ask about that too. I asked Apple what they thought about subscription fatigue, and like I got that look. That look that like when you disappointed your parent.
Yes.
And it wasn't and like the sort of reaction I got was, everybody talks about it, but we've never seen it. And we don't know what it is, and we don't know what it means. And maybe people will see it one day, but it's like this boogie person on the horizon that is always scaring you, but never actually jumping out at you, because humans have had to deal with this forever. You go to a newsstand and there's 80 magazines, and maybe you want them all, but you just intrinsically know you can't have them all. And we've gone away from that. Like now you can have almost all those magazines in the magazine subscription, and you can have almost all the games in the game subscription. But now we're like, well, we can't have all the subscriptions then. It's like, what's going to make you happy? Like everything. And we're like, yes, we want a bundle, and we might get a bundle. But I think when you go from like having to buy every separate Nintendo NES cartridge, like when we were kids, and having to buy every magazine on the newsstand, and having to pay your cable provider, or like for every specialty channel, it's already collapsed a lot. It's already become more affordable. And what I like about this model is that with the way Apple does it, you can add and remove subscriptions and bundles at any time. So maybe, Game of Thrones is back. Hello, HBO. It's finished by HBO. And then it's like, we're going on the road trip this summer. It'd be great if the kids had games that I can trust. They're not on YouTube watching one cartoon and then getting 8 conspiracy theories that I'm not watching with them in the back seat. I can give them this game. It has no in-app purchases, no microtransactions, no ads. They can just sit there and play all day different games. It's worth it for me to spend $10 for that July month or something. Then I get back home at school time, cancel that thing off.
Yeah.
So like you can't have we might not be able to have everything, but we can have what we want when we want. And if there is a bundle, that'll be my icing on the services cake.
Yeah. So I personally am, not super excited about this because I'm not a phone gamer. But I will say, when it comes to games that I have kept around longer, they tend to be these sorts of games, these games that are like studio produced, that are more kind of long-term hop in and play and learn a story kind of thing, versus the free-to-play stuff. But when I first saw this announced, I immediately texted my partner and was like, hey, I think you're really going to like this next thing that Apple announced, and sort of explained to Apple Arcade, because it will, I think, be, fun for someone who is always playing games on his phone, and giving more access to these different ones. Because, there's a difference, I think, between those of us who talk to app developers every day, or work with app developers, or know app developers, and so for us, and who know a little bit about like what goes into making an app, it is not a big deal for me to spend $5 on 3 apps, $5 on a camera app that is better, $5 on this app that's better, $5 on this app that's better, But for someone who doesn't know so much about sort of what goes into it, those prices can seem kind of steep. And because of that, there might be games that they don't ever try because they, have that quote unquote steep barrier to entry. And so giving more access to that stuff, I think, is very exciting and very fun.
Yeah.
And should hopefully be good for everybody. That's what I want it to be. I want it to be good for the developers just as it is for the people playing these games.
Definitely. Agreed. And then how
agree.
they can pay for it?
How?
With their Apple Card.
Segue.
Love it, Lori.
I just totally smashed that segue like a boss.
Like a boss. So Apple Card is Apple's new. It's kind of fun because it's not just a card. It's also a like virtual service a little bit. It is Apple creating a credit card that provides what they say simplicity, transparency, and privacy, which is awesome. But it's also helping you to cut back on the finances that you're paying, toward I can't think of the word for some reason. Why can't I think of the word?
Paying down a balance?
No, it's interest. Couldn't think of interest. It's nice that there are no fees and lower interest, and that the interest charges, they're sort of like, hey, if you pay this, then you're not going to pay interest. Instead,
can I be that one person though who still says that the whole interest thing is absolutely disgusting and should be illegal?
You're not the only person who feels that way.
Yeah. I mean, you're for sure. It's disgusting
because there's so many people I love the titanium card so much. I think the app and the stuff is amazing and encourages you to pay down debt. But when you scroll down that page and it says low interest rate, it's like, no, this is still disgusting interest rates, like up to 22 whatever percent, and it's 13, still gross.
It's 13 to 24% based on what your
people file RICO charges if you're in any other industry.
And so Apple says they're not going to charge you for any late fees, but guess what? Just like the way the American Express card works, your interest rate goes up if you're late on a payment. So no, you don't get a $5 charge, but now your interest rate, if it started at 13, could go all the way up to 24%. Obviously, that's way more expensive than a one-time $5 ding for not paying your card on time. So I'm not trying to throw shade at Apple, but this is such a weird thing.
No, they deserve shade here. I mean, they are doing their best given the current system, but and this is not new. Like when Apple got in bed with the music industry, people had concerns. When they got in bed with the carriers, people had concerns because the carriers are dreadful human beings as well. Oh, okay, I can't say human. Well, no, screw it. They work for that kind of. The carriers are dreadful things. I mean, they're just they don't often operate with the interest of their customers at heart, and they don't often care about their customers. And these are like the worst of the worst because they literally make their money off usury. And I'm for every part of me that is so excited about the titanium physical card, which is so dope, and the Apple Watch style financial health stuff, which is awesome. I just can't get away from the underlying fact that this is Goldman Sachs and it's a traditional credit card business, which to me is antithetical for where we want to go in the future.
Yeah, I agree with the working with Goldman Sachs.
They're the singular of credit card companies. I get it. I mean, they're desperate enough to do whatever Apple wants, but they're still
so what if this is the way the future happens? You know how Apple will put something out and everybody's like, oh, that's so good, we're gonna make ours like that now. What if the entirety of credit card companies saw what Apple did and is like, we should be thinking more about our customers instead of our bottom line. Let's do this.
Let's make a dope card and some nice graphics and keep the interest rates the same.
Well, the privacy, I think, is another area where there's been a bit more,
Yes, but, and I'm going to keep doing it. Yes, but they said they're not going to share advertising and marketing information, but that's not typical. Apple typically says no information. And I'm sure Goldman Sachs had restrictions on what they could say, but again, it's just none of this stuff rings pure Apple to me.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there were. I sort of heard that as an all, but you're right. Yeah.
I wrote about it the first time, like my first video. It says I'm not sharing information, and then people are like, if you read the weasel words, it says no advertising or marketing information.
Yeah,
and I don't know
That's
what that means.
disappointing.
Like, I'm sure they have to share some information for credit scores, like with Equifax, which is another one of my favorite companies. You
Oh,
know,
God.
and probably like U.S. regulatory agencies. I'm sure they have, but like I would love to see a crystal clear list of what exactly is being shared and why.
Yeah,
That's-
and are we going to get that? Probably not. And that, again, that probably has a lot to do with what Goldman Sachs wants. You know, Apple is obviously they don't want to pry into our privacy. They've made that very clear with all of the different things they've done for our privacy and data protection. But
it's like
you know,
the
now they're
insurance
in bed with
companies.
Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs is like,
because they did that with it happened with the insurance company too. Like they're doing the absolute, I called my video the best of the worst, and they're doing absolutely the best stuff they can with these companies, but these companies are still old and gross, and Apple maybe can change them, and I hope they do, because God knows nobody else is trying to change them. But I think we have to go into this aware and skeptical and still fiercely independently protective of our stuff.
but are you going to get an Apple Card? Because I am.
I can't. I'm Canadian.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Only
You
American.
Oh,
That's the other
Renee.
problem. See, that's the other problem with Goldman Sachs is like, can you imagine? Like Goldman Sachs is desperate enough to do this, but a lot of other countries have institutional banking systems. Like in Canada, we only have a few federally chartered banks and a few, I forget what they call them in English, Caisse Populaire, public banks or whatever they are, credit unions. And other countries are like that too, where there's very few, there's no competition, there's very few, they're all regulated, and they're not desperate enough to do that because they don't have to be. And if Apple partnered with American Express, maybe they could push that internationally, even though I know American Express is not loved in many places, including Europe. But like you look like Apple Music, 100, when Apple's in control, Apple Music, 100 and whatever countries, Apple TV, 100 whatever countries, Apple Arcade, 100 whatever countries, Apple Pay Cash, Apple Card, one country.
One country, just
one
the
country, just the U.S. That is okay. That's interesting. Something that I guess I hadn't considered. I'm not gonna be doing the Apple Card. Again, I know I've mentioned my partner several times, but he's pretty excited about this. He wants kind of the card to stick with, and he's in Australia. You may remember that he was in Australia. I'm not saying he was in Australia, and you may remember that Apple announced or Tim actually said like a 99% acceptance rate in Australia. So he loves Apple Pay and really like the acceptance rate there. And this is just kind of like it's more of the same in the sense that this is, you have one card and he's good about paying it down after the month is up or whatever. And so if he wants to sort of go all in on the one card that he wants to stick with,
I think he wants your podcast job, Mike, because he's all in on the Apple stuff.
Yeah, he's more in on the Apple stuff than I am. Man, he could come on and talk about gaming. I better watch out. So I think that, in that sense, it's handy too. If you really like Apple Pay, you kind of use that everywhere. That's the thing that you go for, and you have that option. And some people joke about they've got like 8 different credit cards. That stuff, that makes me so nervous. Like, that makes my heart jump around. And so I hate the idea of sort of adding another one to the bunch. And there's also that whole gaming system of the credit scores across all the different companies and how that can factor into it. Someone put out an article, and I wish I remembered who it was, but someone was talking about if you get an Apple Card and then later you want to make the switch to Android, and therefore you're not able to like make adjustments to the card somehow, then that could mess with your credit score because of this, that, and the other.
But who does that? I mean, does anybody do that?
That is a very rare thing, but it made me think about just the credit score thing in the first place, and how people might get excited about a new card. Ooh, now Apple has a card. I want to do that now too. Anyway, that part. And then now you've got, another card with lower interest and no fees, and that's not great. So, boy, the credit card system in general is.
Samsung's going to come out with a Samsung card made out of cadmium, like any week now.
Or graphite.
The Google Pixel card. I mean, it's just it's going to.
That one's going to be made out of this plastic.
You're going to get half the money back for every search you run on Google.
Oh boy. Well, we're almost done, but I did want to bring up one more thing. Oh, actually, Renee, before we move away from the subject, Gardner von Holt in the in the YouTube chat asked, and you might have gotten an answer. whether or not you can get a card, never use it, and not have it canceled. I think that this, because you're not being charged a fee, I think that this is possible, but you never know. I think there are credit card companies that if you sign up for and get a credit card and don't use it even once in 90 days, it just cancels. It just stops working. You can't use it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a fringe case. I don't think Apple designed for people getting the card and not using it. The whole purpose of the card is to use it. And I understand some people might want it as a collectible or to sell on eBay, but I would strongly urge people who don't want to use the card not to get the card because, like you said, just credit scores and whatever. Don't mess with financial institutions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, try to avoid it if you can.
So I also did want to talk about one more thing that actually Shanghai Chica, which I love your username in the YouTube chat, had mentioned, and I forgot to put it on our list of things to talk about. But yesterday, Apple Watch received an update to 5.2 that adds support for ECG in a bunch of different European regions and Hong Kong as well. So it's opened up. It's what? I'm sorry.
Not Canada.
Still not Canada. Correct.
Dang it.
Still not Canada, unfortunately. But there's a lot more countries that are now supporting the ECG app and the irregular heart rate notification. So it's growing in Australia, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Guam. I could go down the long list, but I won't because I think there's 19 European countries and Hong Kong. So I think 20 altogether so far have been updated with support for the ECG app and the irregular heart rate notification. So it's just a matter of time, Renee, before Canadians get it.
Belgium has ECG. Hong Kong has ECG. There's like 237 countries and 22 of them have the ECG app. My own personal version of the newsroom. You
get an ECG. You get an ECG. You get an ECG.
Canada, not you. Ah.
Yeah, that's Apple Watch. And I'm excited for it to be available in other places for more people to have that service available and get help with their heart and irregular. I mean, it's just, it's your ticker. It's important. You need it. It's great. But that's going to do it for us this week, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
No air power while we were talking. So.
Oh yeah. That's, what was it that your prediction, and I've seen the prediction from other people, is that Apple could do an ultimate troll by releasing air power on April 1st, which would be pretty funny.
It would be awesome.
Wait. Uh-oh.
Wait, what? Lori, what?
So TechCrunch, it looks like just put out, it's not, AirPower is not out. In fact,
I was like, what?
Even worse, TechCrunch just published 2 minutes ago an article that says Apple has canceled the AirPower product completely, citing difficulty meeting its own standards. After much effort, we've concluded AirPower will not achieve our high standards, and we have canceled the project. We apologize to those customers who are looking forward to this launch. We continue to believe that the future is wireless and are committed to push the wireless experience forward, said Dan Riccio. I think I pronounced that wrong. Riccio. Thank you. Apple's Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering in an email statement today.
Holy
so there we go.
Cannoli moly.
Yep.
To get off of here, Renee's like, his wheels are turning. Wowie kadowie. Wow. Okay. So folks, no more AirPower jokes because there is no AirPower. You've heard it. Probably not here first, but maybe here first.
Yeah.
No AirPower. Well, I want to thank you all for listening and for that awesome end of episode release announcement there. Wow. Yeah. I'm still kind of reeling here. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Jim Metzendorf for editing the show. He always makes us sound great, which is awesome. And we appreciate you and adore you. If Georgia Dow were here, she'd tell you could find her on Twitter every once in a blue moon at Georgia_Dow. You can also head to anxiety-videos.com, which gets you access to some really great videos for all sorts of things, setting boundaries, emotional intelligence, depression, anxiety, sleep issues, etc. Renee Ritchie, if people are looking for you online and for your thoughts on the cancellation of AirPower, where can they find you?
I am at Renee Ritchie on all the social things. You can also go to imore.com/vector to find all my stuff, or just youtube.com/vector show to get all of my videos. And today's, it is the iPad Air 3 review shot on a plane. So check that out.
Ooh, on a plane. That's exciting. Lori
I
Gale,
think you got to be careful with your wording there, Renee.
Yeah.
Shot on a plane does not sound good.
Footage recorded on a
Video
plane.
filmed. Yeah. Shot on iPhone.
Lori Gale, if people are looking for you online, where can they find you?
They can find me at Appaholic. Well, I will probably be talking all about AirPower being officially canceled today at Appaholic, APPAHOLIK, at Lori Gill, at most of the other social things.
Excellent. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on Twitter at Micah Sargent, as well as on most social stuffs. You can also find me at chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee for links to all the things I do. And of course, you can find all of our writing at different times across the years over on iMore at iMore.com. I hope you have a great week or weekend, depending on when you're listening to this. This has been The iMore Show.
Thank you.
Yay.